All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our session today. Organizing training for associations, putting your members first through successful learning. My name is Kayla Karunis, and I am your presenter for today. So for those of you who have not joined one of our training sessions before, we will start by telling you a bit about ourselves and our companies. I am the training manager at the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company, as well as CompuEase, and I spend my days organizing and planning training for our clients. In my previous role at the Canadian Credit Union Association, I was the learning events coordinator at the I was a learning events coordinator organizing professional development in class and online for association members across Canada. And when not at work, I can be found reading a book or working on a puzzle. So just before we get started today, I'd just like to make sure that everyone is comfortable using the RingCentral platform that we're on today. If you mouse down to the bottom of the screen, a little menu bar will pop up with the chat button. When we have Melanie on the chat today to help us with any audio issues, or if you need any help anytime throughout the webinar, you just direct your questions to Melanie. As we go through our webinar, please ask your questions in the chat window and we will answer them at the end. Some of you may be listening to the audio through your phones, so if you're hearing an echo, you may want to mute your computer speakers. And if you lose your internet connection, just reconnect using the link emailed to you. And the same goes for your phone. If you lose your connection, just redial the phone number and rejoin the meeting. And we do record these webinars. They generally go up within 24 hours after the webinar takes place. Everyone attending or who is signed up will be emailed the link. And lastly, again, Melanie is ready and waiting just in case you have any technical issues. So now just a little note on who the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company, as well as who CompuEase is. So they are actually sister companies. Great Canadian provides training and consulting and application development services across North America, as well as training online through public and private classes with a live instructor and private on-site training. The Great Canadian Training Company has been around since 2002. CompuEase has been around since 1988, and they provide training across Ottawa and Quebec, and they do this on-site through public training at their downtown Ottawa location, as well as private classes and one-on-one training, either on-site or online. Of course, during COVID, all of our training is online right now, but in the future, we will be back to offering the on-site and in-class training, and we will also continue to offer training online. So what do both of our companies offer? What makes them different than other training companies? So we'll always have responsive, high-quality customer service. Our trainers are experienced subject matter experts. Our public classes are always guaranteed to run, even if you're the only one enrolled. All of our classes are on our schedule, run frequently, so you'll find a session you're looking for when you need it. We never pre-record our online classes.
Hello?
They are always, oh, hello.
Hello, yeah, I'm trying to go to the Zoom meeting, but it said the host is not in the meeting yet. Nobody allow me in.
Oh,
nope, I'm gonna phone you at this number here and we'll get you all sorted out, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. All right, so I'll just jump back in here. So we never have pre-recorded classes. They are always online with a live instructor. We offer our learn or come back free policy on all of our classes. So if you've taken a class publicly and you find that you didn't quite absorb what you were looking to know, you can always take it again at no cost to you. We offer 24/7 after training support on all of our software training. And lastly, we offer a wide variety of software training, and we also offer professional skills training as well. So in the areas of software training, there are many areas that we offer training in. On the software side, we offer Microsoft, Adobe, and programming specialty courses. So you'll see some of those listed here. Most popular being, of course, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and so on. Moving into professional skills training, there is a wide catalog of courses we offer training on. So things like personal development, time management, business development, project management, team building, communication skills, leadership skills, writing skills, and we're always adding both to our software training and our professional skills catalogs. So I'll quickly jump into what is covered in this webinar. So first we'll talk about public versus private training. We'll then move into why professional development is critical for associations, training for larger groups. The topic 4 will be other considerations. Frequently asked questions during our training in particular. A little bit beyond what happens after training and some important final tips. And then I'll jump into questions and closing remarks. So public training is perfect when you have one or maybe a few participants, as it is cost effective. As with all of our training, it is always live and never pre-recorded. And it will always run if there is only one, even if there's only the one participant in the class. And this training can be booked online and you're able to learn at your desk. So with private training, most standard private classes are more cost effective than public once you've reached about 5 or more participants to take the course. You can learn where you are, so training can be done online or on-site in person at your office. You also have the opportunity to customize objectives to the needs and skill levels of your participants. And private sessions can use the files that you work with on a daily basis. So what makes professional development critical for associations in particular and their members? So while every association has its own mission and demographic, what all associations have in common is their member-first, member-centered approach, informing all aspects of their activities. So whether from advocacy to education, members always come first. And professional development is one large way that associations put their members first by providing both value and relevance to the membership. Organizing successful development and education is a key part of many associations' mandate. And lastly, in particular for larger national memberships, education can also serve as a networking opportunity. So training for large groups. Organizing training for large groups is quite daunting. So as a former association coordinator, we had participants in branches across Canada, as well as different provinces, different companies, organizations. So with large groups, you have a number of people with different priorities, schedules, and skill levels. So some may say they're too busy for training, others may say they don't need it, and the easiest quick fix that comes up some of the time may seem to be that short 1 hour or 90-minute lecture style session. But unfortunately, you'd be missing out on the reward of day-to-day efficiency in your employees' roles, actionable learning objectives, practice in real time, and employee engagement offered by well-planned one-day training sessions. So this leads us into our next question. How can you possibly balance the needs, schedules, priorities, and skill levels of your larger groups? So while it may seem easy to train your group in a single whole session, you'll find definitely much more success in separating participants into smaller groups. So with software training, the ideal number of participants is 6 to 12. We have and we will train group sizes larger than this. However, there are a few things to keep in mind the larger you get in group size with software training. So as group size increases, participants do have a wider gap in their range of knowledge regarding the subject being trained. So you will likely have some less experienced participants that are lagging behind, while there are advanced participants that may become disengaged as they're waiting on the others to catch up. And the more complex the software, the more beneficial a smaller group size does become. In addition, particularly with software training, as group size increases, you're more likely to run into participant questions for the trainer. So for example, in a class of 20 people, if every single individual had a question that required about 5 minutes of class time to answer, you'll have over an hour and 30 minutes of the class used on these questions. And while we understand that it's not likely that every single participant has a question, it's important to allow for that adequate time for participants to ask questions and interact to keep their engagement. So with professional skills training, a larger group is more beneficial. We recommend about 12 to 15 participants. And the reason for this is it provides more opportunity for there to be participant examples and experience. And of course, with professional skills, sometimes there is more vulnerability, so a larger group size does feel safer. Another thing that's important, particularly when organizing training for large groups, is customization. So this is something we do offer, and there are many benefits to customizing training. So using your own files for the training provides a huge value to your participants. So I'm sure we can all think of a situation where we've attended training only to return to our desk and have a difficult time applying what we've learned to our work. So when participants are able to use files that they use day to day, or files that they're similar to what they would use on the daily basis, they'll likely have an easier time applying what they've learned. So for example, if you're in an association representing members of the financial industry, using a spreadsheet of financial data that they've worked on would provide relevant, tangible examples to their work. Combining objectives for multiple courses can be beneficial to maximize class time and avoid topics that may be too basic or not quite relevant to your group. So an example we have is that a client we recently had only had one day available, wanted their participants to take levels 1 and levels 2 of Excel. And they requested that we included the more advanced objectives of level 1, but covered primarily more of what was in the material for level 2. And so by tweaking the objectives, we're able to deliver pieces of both levels in a 6-hour, one-day class. And finally, through customization, you are able to take a deeper dive into what the participants are looking to learn. So another example of a recent request we had is we had a client who wanted to take level 3 because they wanted to learn pivot table, or level 2 because they wanted to learn pivot tables. And our level 2 class actually doesn't include them. So we were able to customize this level 2 class, maybe pull back some of the objectives that were a little bit redundant to them or that they may have had more of an understanding of, and then insert those level 3 pivot table objectives. That way they were able to dedicate more time into that deeper dive of pivot tables they were looking for. So another thing you can do with larger groups is splitting classes into multiple sessions. So we do offer the opportunity to split a 6-hour class into 2 3-hour sessions. Ideally, this means selecting 2 dates rather than selecting a single date for training. So the more advanced that you can make this kind of request, the more likely you are to find availability on your desired dates. So this solution is especially useful for those who say they're too busy for training. So by splitting your class into 2 shorter days, you can then receive the full amount of training while providing part of those days for people who are busy to ensure they're able to fit in urgent work, conduct meetings, or answer emails that came in during the class. So this is also great for teams where you don't want the employees in training simultaneously. So for example, if you had a team of maybe admin assistants, you need coverage at every point during the day. You could consider having half of the participants take training over the course of 2 consecutive 3-hour mornings, and the other half take theirs over 2 consecutive afternoons. This would give them a full day of training while also allowing for full coverage during the day. Another very important way to consider splitting up participants in larger groups is by skill level. So ideally, you would want those with a similar level of skill in a class together. Those who are more advanced may feel a little bit disengaged if they're placed with participants with a basic level of knowledge, and those who are more basic could feel left behind when placed with those who are more advanced. So the big question then becomes, how do you figure out which level of training your participants should take? So this really does depend on the participant. You should first consider what you are looking for the participants to learn and to what they are looking to use the skills they're learning for. This helps determine that starting point for which course outline to review. Based on the bits and pieces one knows, they may overestimate their skill level in a particular software program. So rather than asking your participants to estimate what they think their skill is, having them review the outline for the level you are considering to see what they know is an excellent way to gauge their skill level. If your participant is reviewing an outline for a particular level and knows about 70% of the learning objectives listed, they can likely move into the next level up for that software. As you've probably encountered in your day-to-day work, you do learn skills from various software that are useful to you. So for me, for example, I learned pivot tables at one time for tracking conference registrations for the association I was working at. And while pivot tables are a part of our Excel Level 3 course, this does not mean I should skip into taking a Level 3 class. Depending on my level of knowledge in the areas of Excel, I would need the foundation provided by Levels 1 and Level 2 first. So when it comes to Excel in particular, we have found that individuals place themselves in the wrong level. So something we've developed to help with this is a 10-minute multiple choice assessment. So this allows participants to fill this out and determine the correct level for them. From there, we're able to gauge each participant's knowledge level, place those with a similar level of knowledge together, and organize our training accordingly. So we are always happy to work with you in determining the most suitable level of training for your participant or group of participants. So other considerations around training for associations would be, when should you consider consulting or a combination of training and consulting? So something I always enjoyed through my time working at an association was there were always strategic initiatives and big ideas developed with the membership in mind. So for example, the association decided to introduce a CRM internally so we were able to better serve our members. And this was a huge undertaking. While I was only the end user of that CRM, I could see how a consultant would be of great use in this kind of situation. So a highly experienced and knowledgeable consultant can provide insight into best practices for setting up something like a CRM, as well as teaching users how to work with the product. So consulting on its own or combined with training is excellent when you have a particular objective to accomplish. So going back to my example, the task itself is to implement a new product, but the true objective is to ensure that your target audience has the knowledge and education to work with what you've implemented. So you may have already introduced something or developed a new initiative, but you need help building out the training for your team. Particularly if this is a solution that involves software, the fact that your intended users are able to understand why and how is a key to their buy-in and support. So this is where training combined with consulting can make your initiative a success. So an example we've had is a client was interested in introducing OneDrive as a storage solution in their organization. The client wanted to first learn it himself, then work with a consultant to build out a training outline that is specific to their organizational needs. Through consulting, we would work with the client to learn their current process for storage, how to integrate that with OneDrive, and then work with the client to build a training outline for their staff. So we also do consulting on its own as well, such as creating custom spreadsheets with macros and VBA in them to automate, as well as Visio diagrams or creating access databases or web-based applications. So benefits of consulting. Definitely you will have a consultant with a subject matter expert that will bring expertise and best practices to you. You'll have a fresh perspective on the project. And there'll be some financial benefits, of course, because when you're hiring someone to work on a new project, you first have to onboard them, train them, bring them up to speed, and so on. A consultant, because they've maybe had work in a similar industry or they've worked on similar projects, they will be able to come in and jump right in. And so if you are looking to learn more about consulting, please watch the recording of last month's webinar, How Consulting Supercharges Your Business. Mel will include the link to this episode in our follow-up email that includes the recording. So I am going to quickly jump into some frequently asked questions about the Great Canadian Training and CompuEast training as well. And I will move into those. So which software do we use for our online training? So we have found success with Microsoft Teams. We use this for all of our virtual training. It offers the option of access through either your browser or the application. It also offers the option of computer audio and dial-in numbers that cover Canada. Dial-in numbers, of course, are an excellent option if your computer audio is not working. So our trainers use the screen sharing feature offered by the platform to demonstrate learning objectives in real time. If you're learning to learn more about how this platform is used in any software training and professional skills training, we're definitely happy to offer a demo on this. And so we do get asked, if we can use our screen sharing, if you can use your screen sharing platform for the training, and the answer is definitely. So our trainers have experience with platforms including Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Adobe Connect, and more. We understand that some of the time that you may have a high level of security on your end at your organization. You may also have a preference, and we're definitely happy to help. And if it's something that our trainers have not used before, they're definitely able to get up to speed on it quickly. So we do get asked how long our classes are, and they are 6 hours long, running from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We find that participants and those organizing the training do prefer this, as it allows them to block off a single day of training continuously. So this length includes a 1 hour lunch break at 12 p.m. and 2 15-minute breaks. These lunch breaks, though, are flexible and do not have to be at a set time. And so one benefit, particularly with private sessions, is that with private sessions, they can be at different times. So for instance, if you're in Vancouver, you may wish to adjust your training time, or depending on your staff scheduling, you may like to have those breaks or the class time at a different time than that 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time slot. So we often get asked if we do offer French training, and we do offer training in both official languages. And I think a big question that comes up with Microsoft in particular is the difference between our 365 Essentials versus Microsoft 365 courses. So Microsoft 365 Essentials courses kind of give you that look into what is included in your license. And these are about the online versions of the software provided by the Microsoft 365 license. So it's good for those who are kind of new to the Microsoft 365 for Business. And it's for those who want to work with and collaborate through those online versions of the Microsoft applications. So when you move into the 365 Word, Excel, and PowerPoint courses for 365, these are specifically towards that particular software. So an Excel 365 class will be about Excel, Word 365 will be about Word, and PowerPoint will be about PowerPoint, of course. This is to gain the confidence of navigating the desktop interface of that program, and it provides those specific key learning objectives and key concepts for each of those programs. You'll get a glimpse into the common features and functions, as well as the tips, tricks, and time savers for the subject or for the course software that you're taking the training on. So whether you choose to take private or public training, you will receive a PDF reference guide for your course. This will include step-by-step instructions for software learning objectives. And for professional skills reference guides, this more includes opportunities to reflect, make notes, and practice what is learned in the session. For software training, exercise files are also included. So these would be pre-populated files with data, images, text, etc., depending on what the software is. So these exercise files are intended to be opened and used by participants in real time to practice what the trainer is teaching. So if you get stuck, you can ask the trainer for assistance. You can even share your screen and the trainer can see exactly where you might have run into some issues. And so we find that this combination of trainer, reference guide, and files provide participants what they need to ensure that they're able to apply the learning objectives properly. And for professional skills training, this real-time application of learning objectives comes in the form of group activity, as well as the previously mentioned exercises found in the reference guide. Just as is the case with software trainers, participants can ask professional skills trainers any questions they may have during the session. And our courses all come with a certificate of completion for your training that notes what course you took, your name, and the date it was taken. So looking beyond training, we definitely want to reinforce what is learned beyond training day. So we encourage our clients to help their participants with reinforcing what is learned through some things we offer, one of which includes the 24/7 after training support. This is included with our software training for 30 days after the class. So this is provided through a support portal where an expert is able to answer participant questions through the chat. And this is also available as an add-on for 1 year of extended support. 2 weeks after the training takes place, We'll send a tip sheet for the course that it can include anything from a checklist of points to remember for our professional skills classes, or important concepts and keyboard shortcuts for our software training. Our clients also have the option of adding consulting or coaching when registering for our training for any specific tasks or questions they require assistance with. So this applies to both software training and professional skills training as well. And this, of course, can also be added on if you're interested after the training as well. We also have our free resources, which I will show you once we get to the end of the presentation here. And lastly, we also have trusted partners. So if you're looking for additional training for something and you don't see it in our catalog, definitely please ask us. We have a number of training partners, trusted training partners we work with in partnership to provide training in a variety of areas. So some of these include IT and the Working Smart theory, which teaches the productivity side of a number of Microsoft programs. So with the Working Smart theory in particular, next month we'll be having a webinar about the Working Smart courses in partnership with Priority Management. This is 30 years of Working Smart, why it works, on June 16th. So before we move into one more thing in the last part of our presentation and into questions, definitely I want to leave you with some important final tips. So planning ahead is always a wise decision, but even more so when you're booking training. Planning ahead can allow you to leverage the volume of training that you're looking to book for possible discounts. Professional development can also be one of those things that becomes much harder to plan and schedule as your time becomes more full with other strategic priorities. Planning ahead also gives you time for step number 2. So whether you're organizing training as an association for your members or as an organizer at a corporation or government agency, selling your potential participants on training you have booked is critical. We occasionally see situations where someone has pre-booked training at a special rate for a set number of participants, only to have a few people who are signed up for the training. And as an association, selling your members, this may include advertising through e-newsletters featuring classes on your learning management system, or mentioning classes in meetings with your members. For an organization looking to sign up employees or a government agency, making a point to mention upcoming classes during regular team meetings or sending out emails notifying employees of upcoming classes can make all the difference. And when I was in the association space, we were required to take some sort of professional development as part of our annual personal objectives. If I hadn't been regularly informed of the training opportunities that were available, I could definitely imagine it would be easy to put off the training until much later. And lastly, having somewhere for participants to sign themselves up will make your life easier and their access to training much more open. Once you receive your set minimum of amount of registrations for a class, you can then solidify that training booking and work towards the remaining logistics for training. So just before we jump into questions, I am going to just show you a couple pages that will be very helpful in relation to our presentation today. Bear with me for just one moment here. Okay, so first I am going to jump into how we help associations. So we definitely covered some of that here today, but if you're looking to learn more, we do have a page that can be found on our website here, How We Help Associations. And you'll see that this kind of breaks down a little bit more of a recap of what we talked about today. So the private versus the online training, webinars, and how we help your manager. So kind of step by step, if you do decide to contact us, what happens next, and a little bit more about our consulting. And lastly, we also talk about the ways that we can possibly add to the process for you. So helping you put the training on your LMS, working directly with your training coordinators, and so on. So if you are interested, definitely contact us here. Some association we've worked with, they have they have different requests. So we've run into one where the organization would prefer to prepay for the training for a year and then book training as needed throughout the calendar year. And this has definitely been something that's worked. We've also received requests for reduced outlines, so outlines brought down to a few hours. And this is definitely something we can accommodate. I will also move into, because I think some of the stuff we went through today is also applicable to government agencies. We do have a web page available to discuss that further. So that can again be found just under the training heading on our page. And so it does go through a little bit of what we went through with the associations, but what I'd like to point out is we do have a supply arrangement. We know our government clients are definitely interested in this. And we do have courses targeted directly to government employees. So these include effective oral briefings, government briefing notes, and accessibility training that adheres to the new 2021 regulations for both the federal, provincial, and municipal governments. And these are on things like Visio, Word, and Microsoft Office, which this course here provides, kind of combines those programs into a 2-day course. And lastly, I'd like to point you to our free resources. So we have blog articles on anything from working from home during COVID, different software recommended ways to organize training. And I'd also like to point out that you can find those here and that we've recently launched our podcast. This was launched yesterday. Our first session was on artificial intelligence in the workplace, and we would definitely encourage you to check this out. And I'm just going to switch gears back now to our PowerPoint. So bear with me for one moment. So I'd also just like to point you to our free training and consulting audit. So this is a quick 20-minute conversation with us to get to know your business better. And we would have that conversation and then send you a custom audit report after the conversation. This is at no cost to you. So if you want to reach out to us in the next couple, or want us to reach out to you, sorry, in the next couple of days, definitely throw this in the chat window. Melanie, our tech support, will note you down and our team will be in touch. So we can move into questions. So if anybody has any questions, you can place those into the chat. While we're waiting for those to come in, I'm just going to go through the upcoming webinars for the next few months. So you'll see that we have 30 years of working smart, why it works, as mentioned in the presentation. A Teams webinar in July on becoming a power user with top Teams tips, and data analytics through Power Pivot, Power Query, dashboards, and data visualization in August. In September, we'll have Help Your Team Stay Organized with To-Do, Planner, and Teams. And lastly, we will have, in October, Tough Conversations. Don't get easier, but you can get better. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat now. Sorry, bear with me for a moment as I get this up. Okay, so we do have a couple questions here. So we are being asked what version of the software should the participant use for their training. So any of our public and private classes cover all versions from 2013 and 365. So we've tailored our reference guides to actually cover all versions of the training. So they cover more of the concepts and the steps. And if there's anything that does differ between the versions, the trainer will, in a public class, definitely point those differences out. And with private training, we will ask what version you're using in order to ensure that we do point out anything that you need to know about that particular version during the session. We also have a question about someone who's looking for a shorter class. So this is possible if you're looking to reduce outlines into 3 hours from 6 hours. I would say 3 hours is the best if you're going to go shorter to do, and this is definitely something we can do, we would just work with you to reduce that outline. And lastly, I do see that we have one about using when you're looking for training, but you don't actually have that version of the software or a version of the software. So we have remote computers for this. And this is, we can give you a login to a computer that's within our lab, and then that would include the software that you're looking to use, and you would be able to use that for the day. So if we don't have any additional questions here, I'd just like to encourage you to reach out to us. I'm just going to pop that information on the screen here. So for the CompuEase, we can be reached at this information here. So training@compuease.ca at that number. And for the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company, we can be reached at info@greatcanadiantraining.ca. And we're always looking to hear from you. And just before we go, I'd like to thank everyone for attending our presentation today.